Hello, everybody, and welcome to another adventure in history. I'm your host, Shane McInnes, and it's been a long day, but I am so happy to be here because I will be amongst intelligent individuals, people that can think freely and independently, and friends. And those Venn diagrams overlap generously, by the way. People that are my friends also can think that, but there are.
I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus!
But I'm Spartacus too.
I'm Spartacus! I'm Spartacus!
I am Spartacus.
I'm Spartacus! Spartacus!
Thanks, Grethar. And I'm glad that you got to hang out for another week. Any word from the news or the I know that you were Smarticus. Glad you're with us, my friend. I'll just say it that way. Hope everybody's doing all right. Today was rough. It's been a rough day. Had a lot of interactions today that were on the not so easy feeling of things. But I feel a lot better. I got home. I got kind of a vent. I ate some Chinese food. And I get to hang out with smart people. And this is making me feel better already. So, thank you all for being my armchair psychologists while I sit here and gripe about my day. Because I know that's what everybody tunes in for, right? How's Shane's day been? How have your days been? I hope everybody has had a great day. How are you all doing? We tune in for the dog. I know that the dog is more popular than I am. You're doing homework, so you're going to lurk. All right, Mamba. Welcome, my friend. Welcome. You want to learn about Jainism, though? Well, you have come to the right place. Who is Jain? That's a great question. Jane Doe, maybe? No. Jane, girlfriend of Thor in the Marvel comic books. KP was able to go back to work today, which is great news, which means that he was no longer infected with the COVIDs and is feeling better. Very positive. On Reddit, they have streaming. Dogs and or cats tend to be the most popular streams. There we go. Moose coming in with the knowledge like a lightning bolt. Just boom. There we are. Next week is going to be evening shift 2. All right. This is all sounding good stuff. Good news here. Good news. So what you're telling me, Moose, is that I should just shut up and put a GoPro on my dog. That's what you're telling me, right? You intended to stay for a few hours, then got there and found out I was on tap to brief the new commanding officer about suicide preventive and destructive behavior numbers. Wow. And the meeting was at 3 p.m. Wow. Instant partner status for GoPro on the dog. Oh man, they would just be like the dog would be useful for something. Oh yeah. Yep. It would be interesting, though, if I had enough computing power to run another camera and have, like, a doggy cam and mount it on her. Hey, Fid, how's it going? That dog would start paying your mortgage. Hey, man, I'm open to it. If it's going to pay my mortgage, other than turning expensive dog food into poop, that's pretty much what she's good for now. And woofing at the neighbors. So much woofing at the neighbors. So much woofing. All right. So this is Adventures in History. We have fun here. We make bad jokes. We talk about stuff, pop culture and otherwise related. And in the midst of all of that crazy fun, happy times, we try to have a little bit of history just kind of squeeze it in where we can. Thank you all for coming by. Anybody want to... I didn't say, hey, how's Fit? Fit, how was your day? We're talking about how our days went. as a way to sort of get the stream rolling. How did your day go? And I meant to ask you this earlier. Is your kid doing distance learning, or is she back at school? Multitasking kids' homework. Cool. Pizza. Yeah, we could talk about pizza. I like pizza. That Chinese food was very salty. These pretzels are making me thirsty. Both kids are doing distance learning. Okay. If you need any help with that, and if you have any questions about history stuff, or if you want to bounce any ideas or off of anything, feel free to let me know. Next viewer request, the history of pizza. It would be a pretty short one, and it doesn't start in Italy. All right. So, let's talk Jainism. Fair warning tonight. I'm going to show some swastikas, and I don't know if Twitch TOS is going to get all over me about that. The history of food, we eat it. I could do something on the history of food. Calzone. Steinbrenner likes his calzones. Gotta have one from Paisanos. I see food. Flat calzone. Give it to your dog. Yeah. So one of the, like I was saying, one of the Jain symbols is actually the swastika. So we're going to see some swastikas tonight, and they have nothing to do with Nazism at all. But they're going to pop up, so fair enough. Thankfully, they're both in junior high, so it's not too bad as they're self-sufficient. Good stuff. Still be happy to help if I can. That's not right. Howdy. Put that in writing on the screen. Yeah, I might just do that when showing pictures, like, not Nazi related. I see food and give it to your neighbor. That's still not right. These swastikas have nothing to do with Nazis. That might be a legit thing that I should do here. All right. So I guess I should go ahead and introduce the topic for tonight. Jainism, one of the religions of the world that starts around this time period in history. This time period, and again on Thursday nights, we're going through history more or less chronologically, and we've hit about the 500s or so BC. And one of the reasons why everything is starting to kind of slow down, and we've been stuck on the 500s BC for about 3 weeks now, is because a lot of stuff starts happening. And it's going to slow down even further the further we get through history, because there's just going to be junk tons of stuff happening all over the earth. Quarter century stream. Right. Jainism is the thing. A lot of stuff we have historical records about. Yeah, that's another one. When we start writing and people start writing history, there's just more stuff to talk about, which makes me really happy, because that means that my stream has, has a future, which is ironic because we're talking about the past. Anyway, the title for tonight is Jainism, or Never Break the Jain, which I think was a pretty good one. KP helped me come up with that one. I've been trying all day yesterday and today. I've been trying to figure out how to cram some of these Sanskrit words into song titles or puns, and it just hasn't been working. See, Moose, I actually referenced that one specifically. That was my first option, but I didn't know who would know about Jane's addiction. That was literally the first thing I thought of. And now that song is stuck in my head. You're welcome, Steph. And welcome. I don't know if I officially said welcome. I think I might have just said, hey, welcome, Steph Anomaly. Good to see you. If it doesn't get stuck in your head, Janie got a gun. Oh, see, no, that's a big thing, though. You can't use that one because they're super nonviolent. And guns would be right out. Maybe Jane don't got a gun, but that would be a little too clunky. So, I'm glad somebody else knows about Jane's addiction, Moose. You make me feel not so old. Or maybe we're just both old together. I don't actually know how old you are, so you might just be very well listened when it comes to music. Okay, so let's talk about Jainism. It is a religion. You know about them too, and you're old too. Well, okay. Well, now I'm feeling old again. I know that I'm not actually old. I am still in what would be considered young adulthood. Jane's Addiction. No, there's a band that's called Jane's Addiction, but it's actually spelled like Jane, like that. But they have a song called Jane Says, which is what Moose was referencing there. So Jainism is a religion that is... the band was not around before Jainism. We're not that old. It's a religion that is not as widely held today as it has been in the past. There are about 6 million people on Earth today that still consider themselves Jains. The vast majority of them are in India, and inside India, they're mostly going to be in the sort of the central to south central eastern. Good gracious. Let me show you the provinces. Let me zoom in on India again, the provinces. These guys, right about here, here, and this province. These three are where most of the Jains are. There we go. Keith Richards didn't age for 40 years. Former practicing Karens and practicing Jains. Ooh. That might be unfortunate, but true. That's sad. The power of the Karens. But Jains are, they have spread. They're outside of India. There's some over in Southeastern Asia. There's some up in Central Asia. There are Jains in the United States. Mostly you're going to find them in places that have higher populations of immigrants. There aren't too many Jains in the Southeast, where I live. I don't think there's a Jain temple within probably 200 miles of me. That said, artificial drug use age you, but you preserve that age state for far longer than they should. Yeah. So Jainism, interesting religion. I like it a lot. And as always, when we're talking about religion, I'm not here to proselytize. I'm not here to convert anybody. I'm not trying to make anybody question them anything or get on anybody's case. Also, with the understanding that I have simplified a lot of this material so that it can be approached by people with little to no knowledge. This is a very complicated religion. It's more complicated than I understand. I am not qualified to be a Jain scholar. I have studied it for quite some time. I've read some of their literature, but I'm not like a Jain convert. I'm not a Swami or I'm not going to be capable of leading a Jain service or anything like that. But this is kind of the highlights. You should be able to pick up enough about this to give you some places to start off on. It sounds like a Jain. The religion itself is fairly complicated. It's got a lot of different levels. It's got a lot of stuff that you're supposed to memorize, lots of mantras that you are supposed to memorize and recite, lots of names that you're supposed to memorize, names and symbols and things like that. There are lots of different steps and jewels and truths and promises and vows, and we'll talk about all this stuff. In part, I'm not going to go through every single level of this stuff. I'm going to, like I said, give you the highlights, and this will be enough for you to get the gist of it, right? So we're going to start off where they say they start off, and that is that Jainism has always been and will always be. So the Jains believe that their religion is universal. It has existed before our current world was shaped, and in future iterations of the world, it will continue to be. And it is always going, it's always going to happen. It's the way that things started, and it's the way that things will end, if there is a beginning and if there is an end. So I know that seems kind of like a bit esoteric, a bit kind of out there. There is a universal Jain in every multiverse. Kind of, sort of. But they would say that the different versions or the different planes of reality are all wrapped up in the knowledge that they possess in Jainism. And they do believe in multiple realms of reality. We'll talk about the Tatras in a bit. There are different levels of existence in Jainism, and we'll kind of hit the highlights of that in a bit. But because this truth is ever present and eternal, not the Tatas, the Tatras. You're here for the multiverse lore. Hashtag multiverse. How did human beings understand this for the first time, right? If it's always just been there and it's always the way that it's supposed to have been, how did humans become aware of this if it's always sort of in the background? Well, the answer is that there are individuals within Jainism history that are called Tirthankars. It's pronounced Tirthankar. And these people are basically the prophets that expose the truth to everybody. The word in Sanskrit literally means a person who makes a forge, or a forge. Ford, not forge. Ugh, we talked about metal on Tuesday. Ford, a place for you to cross the river, right? So these are people that make the knowledge of the universe and existence known to people and show people the way to get across to knowledge. And these are individuals that have enormous amount of wisdom. They and there's even a type of I should pause here. One of the things about Jainism is that they believe that there's lots of different types of knowledge. There's physical knowledge that you've experienced, but there's universal knowledge that you can gain awareness of. There is some knowledge that is inherently pure. There is some knowledge that is inherently flawed. But one of the things that denotes one of these Tirthankars is that they have what's called omniscience, or universal knowledge. And I can't type and speak. You all know this. In Jainism, this is called Kevula Jnana. And this is omniscient knowledge where you literally understand everything. You have inherent knowledge of the entire universe. And because you have knowledge of the entire universe and how it operates, you are able to transcend life and death. So you can basically get out of the cycle of reincarnation. Jains believe in reincarnation. Those are some big brains then. Yep. What kind of mushrooms do you need for that? You make a joke, but there are a lot of stories about Tirthankars in history, and some of them involve some weird kind of like meditative stances, and some of them, I mean, I don't think any of them specifically trip on mushrooms, but mushrooms are in a lot of religions. What is the secret of the universe? 42. Right, exactly. So they don't have to wait millions of years for deep thought to spit out 42. They just know 42. And welcome, Kelly, by the way. You just need dispassion on life. Right, that's part of it. You need to detach yourself, and we'll get to some of the truths later on. But one of them is kind of like recognizing that this physical life thing isn't really the best, and you don't really need it. So these Tirthankars are these Ford makers, these people that are going to make the way for people. And by the way, Captain Reddy, hello and welcome. I didn't say hello to you. I apologize. You actually made it tonight. You usually fall asleep as soon as you get home from school. I feel that. I feel that deeply. So, Tirthankars have gained Kivla Jnana, they have omniscience, and they're going to be the people that show humanity how to reach enlightenment and nirvana. The neat thing about them is that they show up in sets of 24. There are always 24 Tirthankars, and this is throughout different cycles of history. Remember that Jainism teaches that history goes back forever, and it just keeps going back forever and ever and ever. And there are cycles of the universe, there are up cycles of the universe, and there are down cycles of the universe. But every cycle, there are 24 Tirthankars that show up to help humans and help them move through things and understand things and bring them this knowledge of omniscience and truth. So, pretty cool people. These are the guys that are going to be considered essentially the deities of Jainism. They are frequently considered to have gone through lots of different lives before they hit this stage. Hello, finally made it as well. Keep missing you somehow. Hello, ELO lover, and welcome. I could maybe try to work on sneaking in an ELO song reference as a title every now and then, but it's hard sometimes. You got to come up with what you're given. So, welcome. Welcome, my friend. So, these 24 Tirthankars, they go through lots of different cycles, and based on their lives, they all have certain kind of formulaic events. And this is known for all of them, all 24 of the current ones. Their stories and their lives are told and remembered in history, and they go through these formulaic phases. So the first time that they are born, this first cycle or first step of their eventual lives is the Atman coming down into their mother's womb and incarnating for the first time. Then they are born, and in their life, at some point, they will have a moment where it's called the renunciation, where they come to the realization that earthly goods and physical stuff just aren't really going to help, and it's time to give all of that up. So that renunciation is an important moment. Then they hit that level of omniscient knowledge, that Kivla Jnana, and then the last sort of phase of the Tirthankar's life is where they are released from the cycle of reincarnation. And they go on to the level of the ascended beings up in Siddhasiya, which we'll talk about a little bit later. So for all of these 24 individuals, we have the stories of their lives, and these sort of big chunk moments are in all of the stories. And if you want to, you can Google some of these lives. They're actually really fascinating. They've been pretty meticulously kept. Many young Jain children will learn these stories almost like we would learn stories about the disciples or about the patriarchs or about the early Rashidun Caliphate or whomever your particular religious belief is, or if you don't have one, that's fine too. It's not my job to convert you. But these stories are told, and they are the pillars of the Jain community. They're the people that everybody look to. They are they're the ones that are going to help you get there, and they are worshipped. Each of them has an image that is frequently associated. Each of them has a way that they appear. Each of them typically has an animal associated with them, and you're very frequently going to see a picture of the Tirthankar sitting in the lotus position, and it might not have a name on it, or any sort of distinguishing factor, because some of them are pictured in the nude, so it's just a guy sitting there, but then below their seated position, they'll have a little plaque with their animal on it, so that oh, I know who that is. This is Ribansha, or this is Pashanva, or this is Mahavira. You know, you can look at the little image and know. So Tirthankars are the people that are going to get you there, and I want to talk about 3 of them. These are all 3 considered from our Universal Cycles 24. Ooh, Kelly's breaking out the images here. Yeah, there we go. There's all the Tirthankars. And you can see their animals below them. Check it out. There we are. I'm just going to hire Kelly to look up all of my photos from now on. Cool stuff. All right, so the first one. Oh my gosh. Rishabhan. Okay. Yes. Thank you. So this is, it's a long word, but it's pronounced Rishabhan. And he is considered the first Tirthankar of our 24 cycle. He lived millions of years ago in Jain's perception of time. And he was the first Tirthankar of our cycle, and he found humans. Sorry, they help you do what? Break the cycle of reincarnation? Yes, they are the ones that bring the knowledge of omniscience to people. They are the ones that transmit knowledge to individuals to help them understand how to get out of samsara. Accurate. Someone get Shane a Skillshare or Curiosity Stream membership so he can look up how to talk and type at the same time. Man, I can't do it. I can't do it. I've tried, and this is going to probably sound kind of silly. I've even tried off stream, where I just sit here and try to say the word and type, but my dyslexia brain does not like that. It does not like doing the visual, the auditory, and the physical at the same time. It just goes, it just doesn't work. Like a Bodhisvata. I'm going to have to be careful here. So, in Buddhism, the Bodhisvata is an individual that has reached kind of peri-enlightenment, that has a lot of ability to help other people come to enlightenment. And they're very frequently considered, religious figures that get prayed to and worshipped. The difference here is that the Bodhisvattas in Buddhism can be innumerable, right? There can be 1 million of them. They can also be of varied influence. So some Bodhisvattas are considered to have a lot of power and a lot of influence within Buddhism, and some Bodhisvattas are considered to be kind of lesser Bodhisvattas that have smaller influence maybe over a particular area or a particular village or maybe even a particular family. But the Tirthankars, once they hit Kevala Jnana, are all equal in power and influence. And not all of them are worshipped as frequently. Rishabhan here and the last 3 are the most worshipped ones right now, but all 24 are considered to be kind of co-equal in Tirthankar status. So, like a Bodhisvata, yes, but not exactly the same. I think Skillshare should pay Shane to teach how to not be boring in history class. I would love it if somebody would pay me to teach history like this for a living. I would do this in a heartbeat. If there was an actual university level or college level or somebody that would pay me to teach like this in class, I would love this junk. I would be all over that. I can't do this in class, though. I really can't. I try, but I can't. I can tell bad jokes, and I can goof off, and I can try to talk like that, but I am so constrained by limits of time and access that I can't chase rabbits. I have to follow the approved student learning objectives. I have to cover the material that is expected of me to cover. It's just I'm not going to say it's unfulfilling, and I'm not going to say it's unrewarding. I had a great class today. I was talking about Buddhism in a World Civ 1 class, and I had some really good interactions with some students today. And I really had a good day, and I enjoyed that. The bad part came afterwards with all of the rigmarole from email stuff. But, you know, I would love to do this for a living. I would love to. Who could become enlightened but forgoes it to help others instead. Yeah, that part especially, Kelly, is very much different. The Tertonkers are going to fully accept enlightenment, and they're going to go to the realm of Sita where everything is perfect, and they're going to help others from there. It's not like the Bodhisattvas who kind of hold back to help pull everybody on the great vehicle in the Mahayana. That's a great comparison, though. I'm glad to bend my brain on that way. More interesting than school. This is how history class should be for real. I absolutely agree. Just teach random fun history. I love it. We have to figure out how to monetize you. Well, I mean, I will never ask for money. It's not my job here. If I get subs or if I get bits, I get them, and I don't feel like I need to be made into a commodity here. This is actually more fun for me than a lot of stuff in the world right now. This has become a bright, shining little light. And if it made money, it would, and it's fine. But I'm not ever going to ask anybody for money. I appreciate what I get, and that's just the way that it goes. No test, no quiz, just really fun learning. I dig that. The kids don't understand the Gundam references. No, they probably wouldn't. Give the dog a GoPro? Yeah. GoPro the dog? Yeah. Walking the dog, giving a lecture? I would need a new phone for that. My phone is garbage right now. And I also don't have a data plan on my phone. I'm stuck in like the last decade. So I don't think I could stream from I could not stream from my phone. That would be really fun to try. There's actually a streamer that I follow. She's from Poland. Her name is Vivi's Art Service is the name of her Twitch channel. And she occasionally goes around to different cities. And the other day she was walking around Lublin in Poland. And it was great. Because she's just walking around on her phone. She's like, hey, here's a church. And I was like, I know that church. That's St. Michael's Church. And like, I'm a giant nerd, so I know these things. But there we are. It's a great name. It is a great name. Dude, get with the times. I don't need to be connected all the time. I need to be able to disconnect. I need to be able to not have the internet constantly at my fingers. I need to be able to think about stuff and clear my brain and read a book. Read a book! Anyway, who is this guy? Rishabant. He is the first of the Tertonkers from this cycle. When he showed up in the universe at the time, human beings were uncultured and had no society, so he just decided to create society. Boom! There we go. He creates society as we know it. Mac and I have been trying to get him to upgrade for years. They have. They pester me all the time. His symbol, Rishabant's symbol, is an ox. So if you ever see a guy with an ox, that's him. But I have an image of him, and he looks like this. He's kind of an interesting looking guy. Rishabant here. Typically seated in the lotus position. This is very common for a Tertonker. This is the guy who made society. That's him. He's staring at you. He's looking into your soul. And he knows everything about it too, because, he's got that omniscient knowledge. So there you go. We're not going to go through all 24. We will go through 2 more though. This is Parshavant. He is the 23rd of our 24. So he's the next to most recent one. He's also the first one that we have archaeological and textual evidence of, and this does not mean that I am implying that the rest of these people were not. Again, it's not my job to weigh in on anybody's religion, but archaeologically and textually speaking, Parshvant is the first person of the 24 Tautankers that we have any sort of historical data about. I hate to burst your bubble, but that's not what you think it is. His eyes follow you. You drew that in second grade. Well, Moose, maybe we're about to hit the down cycle, and you're going to be the first Tautankar of the next cosmic cycle. You're going to be the first of 24. So just work on hitting that renunciation point and start working on the omniscience. So yes, they're all guys. They are all dudes. And for the ladies in the audience, there's going to be some not nice stuff about ladies later on. Heads up. So Parshvant is going to live sometime between about 900 and 700 BC. Oh, sorry, Moose. Tried to get omniscience, but only got evidence. Oh. Stephanopoulos, do you actually have one of those? Like, did you see the hat wear that I wear on stream, and you have one like at the ready? That would be that would be amazing. Anyway, I didn't know Kelly had one. Okay, it's a beanie. Oh, my friends. I love you all. Anyway, Parshvant is responsible for reviving interest in Jainism. According to the story of the 24 Tautankars, between the 22nd and 23rd Tautankar, there was a lot of stuff that happened, and the wisdom of Jainism kind of got left beside the road. People forgot about it. People did not follow the right teachings. They had almost forgotten about all of the Tautankars and the truth and all of that stuff. But Parshvant was the one that kind of stoked up the fire and got everybody back on the right track. So this guy is responsible for bringing it back. He's the guy that made it cool again. And his image is the snake. And one of the things that you can tell about him, usually when you see Parshvant, he's going to be seated in the good old-fashioned lotus position, but he's got this hood over his head, which is supposed to be the hood of a cobra, because his symbol again is the snake. But snakes in Hindu and Jainist and lots of Indian regions are not evil. They're very frequently considered to be wise. So this isn't like a symbol of him being evil or sneaky. This is a symbol of him being wise. He brought sexy back. He brought the Jainism back. I don't know about the sexy. I never met the guy, so I couldn't really comment on his sex appeal. And it would probably be a little bit blasphemous to consider at this point, considering he is an ascended being full of omniscient knowledge. So which one of their Tautankars is an incel? None of them, but there are some pretty strong beliefs about women. We'll get to that in a bit. So the last one that we'll talk about is Mahavira. He was the 24th Tautankar, and he was the most recent one and the last one in our cycle. He was alive between about 600 and 500 BC, and he is going to be the one that is responsible for essentially setting up the current doctrinal practice of Jainism. He was the guy that is credited with making up a lot of the individual belief sets, the concepts of the five truths, the vows. A lot of the stuff that modern Jains follow are going to be attributed to him, sort of codifying a lot of the knowledge that existed beforehand in a way that humans can adopt. His symbol is the lion, and he is very widely worshipped. He is probably the most recognizable of all of the Tautankers. Fair warning, there are swastikas. These have nothing to do, again, with Nazis. But here you see Mahavira. He has the lion in front of him. Again, this is a very common thing. You see the little image of the lion. Here's the swastikas. This actually has a lot of meaning, and we'll kind of go through what all these dots mean and what the swastika itself means a little bit later on. But this is him. This is Mahavira. Very, very common figure in Jain worship today. Okay, so there's the Tautankers. I knew that about swastikas, fortunately. Cool. Good stuff. So let's talk a little bit more about the belief sets. All right. Well, Jainism believes in a soul, and they use the word jiva. And to the Jains, the soul is essentially the spirit of the person. It exists by itself in totality, completely without flesh, but physical bodies are a sort of clothes to the jiva, and they sort of kind of drape over it and make the form. Shainism, no, let us not worship Shain. Shain is unworthy of worship. Hey Arcadian, how's it going? The jiva is going to follow the individual through reincarnation. In fact, the jiva is essentially the essence of the person. There is a lot of reincarnation in Jainism. You go through lots of different cycles, and I need to make a very distinct point here that Jainist reincarnation or Jain reincarnation is very different than both Hindu and Buddhist reincarnation. Because in Jain reincarnation, you can come back as non-living things. You can experience lives as plants or as animals. You can have cycles where you are a demon in hell. Mahavira, the last of the Tirthankars, was believed to have one reincarnation of his life as a demon. So even the Tirthankars can be back in the bad stuff. Shane's ego will reach critical mass if he gets his own cult. I would like to think that at the moment I thought a cult was forming, that I would shut that stuff down. I don't need any more help for my ego. It's already way too big. But the Jains believe in a lot of reincarnation. And in some versions, you might experience 8,400,000 lives before you get to the one that gets you out of the cycle. So you might spend 8,400,000 lives worth of Mondays before you get out of the cycle. All hail the history man? No. Point out the history man's flaws. I will take the guy on the chariot beside me whispering, "You will die one day." Does anybody get that reference? Let me know if you get that reference of the guy whispering, "You too will die" in your ear. The sacred scriptures foretold by his return to the company of the werewolf. Yeah, no hurry. You've got 8,400,000 lives. Oh, now you want the talk. Don't make a cult of me. Let me call the puppy. Kaylee! Kaylee poo! There's the puppy. I'm still muted. I apologize. So I didn't mute when I was supposed to, and now I am muted. Okay, there we go. Anyway, so there's the puppy. I know the puppy loves you all, and I know you all love the puppy. You don't have to love me. You didn't actually mute when you called Kaylee, and then she showed up. And we spell her Kaylee like that. Like Kaylee Fry from Firefly, who she's named after. Oh, no, you're fine. Nobody, I mean, there's like a bajillion ways to spell Kaylee. Trust me, I teach college students. Okay. All right. Where were we? Lots of reincarnation. Oh, yeah, but there's a bad side to it. If you are a bad person in Jainism, you can actually screw your soul up. They have this word called avaya, where you have done something so horribly wrong to yourself that you have literally made your soul incomplete. And because you have made it incomplete, it cannot ever reach liberation of nirvana. So you can jack your soul up so bad that you can never reach enlightenment, which is something that is not really the same in either Hinduism or Buddhism as well. You can kind of screw yourself out of eternal bliss. So don't do the bad things. So how do you do this? Well, you have to do something that is considered so vile and so against the nature of your teachings that it literally takes part of you away. And I'm going to make the reference because this is kind of the closest thing that I can think of. If you've ever read Harry Potter or know anything about it, the way you make a Horcrux is by doing something horrible and it rips part of your soul out. Well, that's kind of like this scenario. It's not the same, but it's like that, where you can do something so bad that you rip part of your soul out and it never can be perfect again. And you get stuck in the cycle of reincarnation forever. Which is kind of bleak. But you're just supposed to not do horrible things, and then you don't have to worry about it, right? They also believe in karma, as you might expect. But the karma in Jainism is very different, because in Jainism, karma is considered a particle, and it is actually both physical and psychological in nature. So when you do bad stuff, karma particles attach to your soul, and they get stuck on you. No redemption? Well, if you get to the abaya stage and you have messed your soul up, it is permanent. Like, you do not come back from that. Now, you can get, a nice life after that, but you're never going to get the ultimate liberation from the cycle. There's no coming back from that one. So, these karmic particles stick to you, and based on the actions that you take, you can kind of like slough off bad karma particles by attracting good karma particles, which kind of repel each other. But these can also get stuck to you and follow you through reincarnation. Your internet is going crazy and keeps skipping ahead, and it looks like you missed a lot. I think I'm going to have to go. Oh, Steph, that stinks. I'm sorry. Hope everything levels out for you. Is anybody else having internet trouble? Is it maybe on my end? No issues here? Okay. Well, sorry, Steph. Hope everything works out. Have a good night, and if you can reboot or something and come back in, you're always welcome. These little particles will stick to your jiva, and have to kind of go through some good stuff to get those out. But what's interesting here is that the Jains don't really believe in God. Now, I know I was talking about worshiping the Tirthankars and stuff like that, but they're not gods. They are ascended humans, and they showed us the wisdom of the universe, but they're not gods. Like I said at the beginning, the universe always was. There was not a creator. There was not a being that caused the universe to appear in, there was no creation event. The universe just always was, and it always will be. And there's no real definition of where it starts or stops. The way that this karma works is not based on the actions of a god or anything like that. It's these particles are attracted or stick to you or repelled from you in a very mechanical way. Like, it is just part of the way that the universe functions. It's impartial. It doesn't have any sort of malice or agenda. It doesn't have a motive or a motivation. It's just what happens. Like, if you do bad stuff, the bad particles just stick to you because the universe says so. It's like if you drop a pin, it falls because gravity. If you do something bad, you get bad karma because karma. So there's nothing out there like pulling the strings of the universe. The universe is this kind of perfectly oiled mechanism, and we're all just riding in it. So, interesting stuff there. There are a collection of 3 ideas. That's interesting. The universe isn't eternal in Hinduism, is it? The gods are and Brahman is. But, well, I should say Brahman is universal, but, well, and I guess it really just depends on which. Oh man, Hinduism is such a bad word. The word Hinduism describes about 7 or 8 different religions, and they all get lumped together in the title Hinduism because white people. And that's not me being white guilt. It's literally because when the British showed up in the 1700s, they didn't really care what they believed in. And there's like, oh, you're all the religion of the Hindus. Congratulations. Hinduism. Hindus have a concept called Brahman, which is the universal spirit that was the basis of everything. In some versions of Hinduism, Brahman is what creates the gods. In some versions of Hinduism, the gods were with Brahman all the time. And in some versions of Hinduism, Brahman just made everything and the gods don't really matter. You've seen Jains worship Hindu gods and thought both Hindus and Jains are the same. So, some of the Hindu deities can be viewed as past Tirthankars. Some of them also can be seen as there's another version of being called Arhat, which we haven't talked about because it gets really kind of in the weeds. Some Jains recognize that some Hindu gods are wisdom centers and intelligence centers, but no Jain is really going to look at a Hindu god in the same way that a person that follows Hinduism is. It's kind of like me saying, I really don't watch rugby, but I really think that the New Zealand rugby group is pretty cool when they do that haka stuff. That's really cool. So in the same way, a Jain might look at a Hindu god and go, that god's got some good teachings. We can get behind that, but they're not going to convert to Hinduism. That's a good question, though, or like a good point. Sorry, didn't mean to sidetrack. No, absolutely. That is a perfectly... Do not ever feel bad about sidetracking me. I will sidetrack myself about 15,000 times. 8,400,000 to be exact. Never feel bad about asking questions. In Vajrayana Buddhism, you gain karma by either going against or perpetuating the human condition, state of the universe. Yeah, and see, Vajrayana Buddhism is interesting because it brings in a lot of Hindu teachings too, which is, right out for the other versions of Buddhism, but they're all about it. Like the Vajrayana means thunderbolt vehicle. The Vajra is actually the thunderbolt of Indra, one of the kind of chief gods of Hinduism. So there's a Buddhist sect with a Hindu god's weapon in their name. So if you perpetuate suffering or cause suffering, you get bad karma. Similar premise in Jainism. They're all about the nonviolence. Speaking of kind of core tenets, let's talk about some of those. In doing so, you kind of become caught up in a cycle of suffering and thus delay or boycott your enlightenment. Very similar in process, not the same in reasoning, but very similar in process as Jainism here. All right, so let's talk about the 3 jewels. Ooh, they're pretty. In order to reach the point where you get out, and they use the word moksha, which is used in both Hinduism and Buddhism to mean the release from the cycle of reincarnation. At Costco to shop now. If I'm not back, have a good rest of the stream. Buy me some snack cakes. I hope your shopping trip goes well. So there are 3 corrects. 3 things that you're supposed to do the correct way to be a good Jain. The first one is have the correct view. So correct view is the first of the 3 jewels. And this is understanding the nature of the soul, or the jiva. You understand the concept of what makes you unique. You understand the concept of reincarnation. You understand the concept of how good things happen and bad things happen. And you have to understand that to kind of get the rest of the religion. All right, so correct view. Snack cake reference checkbox. Buddhism has the jewels too. They do, but they're not quite the same. The jewels in Buddhism are, and this is where it starts getting really fun. They have some of the same concepts, but they're played out differently. And I know this is kind of fun. And this is why I would really love to teach something like a master's level history class on Southeast Asian religions and talk about the overlap between Jainism and Hinduism and Buddhism and Sikhism. That'd be great. The Silmarils, the Buddha, the Sangha, and the Dharma. Right. They are not the Silmarils. They do not have the light of Telperion and Laurelin in them. They were not made by Feanor. The Spirit of Fire was what his name means, by the way. Giant nerd. Unless they are. So, right view. Second one is right knowledge. And in Jainism, there are these collections of things called tattva. And these are basically the way that karma works. And the way that karma operates between souls, how it moves, how it stops you, how it attaches to things, how it moves you between lives. You can move from a living thing to a non-living thing, and from a living thing to a non-living thing, and from a positive thing to a negative thing, and up and down, and how the interconnected levels of the tattva work. You have to understand all of this stuff. You have to understand how to shed karma, how to stop the bad karma from getting in. You have to understand how to liberate yourself from this stuff. This is the right and the correct knowledge. Tolkienism, let's go. So the second is right knowledge. The third is right conduct. So you got to do things the right way. And there are, inside of correct conduct, there are 5 vows. And I've actually got a picture of a really cool standing stela with the 5 vowels on them. So again, we're going to have a swastika, so just hold on. As a very devout Catholic, Tolkien would be offended by that very suggestion. He's dead. Good thing he can't comment anymore. Yeah. Okay, so this is a... there's a lot going on in here, by the way. This little sign up here is the sign of Cetacea. These 3 dots right here represent the 3 jewels. The right view, the right knowledge, and the right understanding. Oh, I'm sorry, I did that backwards. View, understanding, knowledge. Boom, boom, boom. Right there. 3. These are representing the different phases of life. Again, we'll go through that in just a bit. Here's the swastika representing balance and harmony. And then you have these 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These right here are what are called the 5 vowels. Should we be able to see the very top symbol? I've got a better picture of that in just a second. That's a lot larger. So mostly what I'm looking at right here is this stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's got a bunch of little guys sitting around in a boat looking thing. And I'll show you a picture of it in just a second. But these are what we're after right here. These words are what are considered the 5 vowels. There's ahimsa, which is non-violence. In Jainism, you are not supposed to do anything that would harm anything. Some of them take this very extreme. Some of them take this to the point where they give up eating because eating is harming stuff. I'm of the principle that there is only one swastika, and that is the original one like that. The other one is heresy and should be overshadowed by the proper one instead of the other way around. Arcadian, I would love for that to be the truth, my friend. I really, really would. I don't know if we'll ever be able to completely rid the world of what the Nazis did to it. They killed millions of people that were innocent in a horrible way. They were truly horrible people. The modern world has a much harder time forgetting about stuff than the ancient world did. I would love for that to be removed and have never happened. But I'll say this. If it keeps... let me collect my thought for just a second. If the Western world loses the swastika as a symbol for balance and peace, and that is the cost of us never having another Holocaust, I think it's worth it. If you go to India, the Nazi swastika never shows up and nobody really cares. Swastikas are used everywhere. I've been to churches with swastikas all over them. They were used in various religions for thousands of years before the Nazis screwed them up in 3 decades. So if we in the Western world lose the swastika and we never have to go through another Holocaust, I think that'll be okay. But I would love for the Nazis to have never happened. Nazis suck. I agree. And if you're a Nazi, you suck. You can change, and I'll forgive you. But if you're a Nazi right now and you're unrepentant, you suck. Just the reality of it. That's right, I said it. So, okay, again, the 5 vowels. Ahimsa, no violence. No violence, period. No violence. You aren't supposed to eat meat. You can only have milk and dairy products if it's collected humanely. Some of them won't eat potatoes because to eat a potato, you have to turn up the potato plant and kill it. Some of the Jains that are very, very ascetic decide that they can't eat at all because even collecting food in the most base level can harm something, and they stop eating and they basically die. Jains don't eat onions. Yeah, right, for the same reason. Like, if to get to an onion, you have to pull up the whole plant, which means that you have just killed the plant to get to the onion. And you can't do that because you're not supposed to have any violence because of ahimsa, one of the first of the is the first of the five. What about breathing? You can breathe, but what's really interesting that you bring up about breathing, I'll show you a picture of a Jain monk later on. A lot of the really devout Jains will actually wear a mask over their mouth and nose so they don't accidentally breathe in bugs. And some other of the devout Jains will carry around a little brush with them so that before they sit down, they make sure that they sweep off whatever they're doing so they don't sit on bugs. Because in the Jain world, you can come back as a bug. And you are not supposed to cause violence or harm to anything. Period. Ahimsa means non-violence through and through. The second of the five vows is satya, which is the truth. You're always supposed to seek the truth, speak the truth, believe in the truth. You're supposed to recognize that the truth is a universal thing, but that other people might interpret stuff differently than you. There's a lot of point of view here. In Buddhism, some bad karma is unavoidable, so they put more emphasis on intent. Right. Well, in Jainism, again, the karma system is very impartial and it's almost mechanical. So even if your intent is good and you do it, you still get the bad karma. The third one is asitaya, which is no stealing. You can't steal. You can't be a thief. You can't rob someone of joy. It's not just like taking someone's possessions, but you can't take the goodness away from somebody else. The fourth one is celibacy and chastity. Most of the Jain monks are celibate. If you are not a monk, you are expected to practice chastity, meaning that you basically don't have sex for the fun of it, or in some of the more liberal is the wrong word, but some of the non-conservative versions, you're just supposed to be very faithful to your spouse. You're not supposed to lust after another person. Adultery is right out. You're supposed to be very devoted to your person. But you're also not supposed to be so caught up with the physical aspect of it that it becomes a hindrance to you. You're screwed. Or maybe not. It depends on if you're a Jain. The last one is aparigraha. Gosh, I can't say words. Aparigraha. And it is poverty and non-attachment. You're not supposed to be attached to stuff. And if you'll remember us talking about the Tatankars, one of the things that they always had, one of the parts of their life cycle was the renunciation. And that's when they go, stuff is not good, and I don't need stuff, and they give up stuff. Well, this is poverty and non-attachment. Some of the Jains take this really, really, really far, to the point that some of them, especially some of their male monks, don't wear clothes because they consider clothes to be an attachment to an earthly thing. You're not supposed to have a lot of fancy property. You're not supposed to show off your wealth by possessions and stuff like that. Hey, Joby, how's it going, my friend? Everybody go follow Joby Dorr. He's a cool guy. Does awesome art. Has a new podcast that he's just got off the ground. Can you have their stuff? Well, that seems like you might be a little attached to their stuff. So you would not be practicing good non-attachment at that point. So that's the fifth of the five vows. You gotta give up the stuff, man. And the correct answer would be that they probably wouldn't have very much stuff to begin with. So even if they did have stuff, it probably wouldn't be really cool stuff, right? You're not going to get a free Xbox out of this. So in some versions of Jainism, they have a fourth jewel, which is called correct asceticism, where you're supposed to be super in denial of yourself. Not all Jains follow the fourth jewel, so I didn't include it. The fourth jewel is usually the ones, this correct asceticism, where you basically deny yourself everything. That's the one where people have sometimes literally starved themselves to death because they figure that even food is some sort of an attachment to this world, and we need to get rid of the food because that's just another attachment. Seems very proto-Buddhist. They actually showed up around the same time, but in different parts of India. They're clearly going to have interrelation with each other. They're clearly going to have interrelation as well with Hinduism. Hinduism is older than both Buddhism and Jainism. But they all sort of happen in the same subcontinent of India. So there is definitely going to be some overlap here. A lot of the terminology is the same, like everybody's favorite garage band from Seattle, Nirvana. Nirvana is... they're all sects of Hinduism. Oh, no, I don't think we could go that far. I don't think Hindus would agree with you, and I don't think Jains and Buddhists would agree with you. They all have influence from Hinduism, but I would bet that Jains would disagree that they are Hindu. I would also bet that Buddhists would disagree that they're Hindu, especially big chunks of Buddhists, like the Theravada, who would say that Hinduism is just right out. Now, they probably got lumped in as Hindu by the British, but they're not Hindu. No. Because white people, I mean, the British really screwed up India. They really did. And a lot of the problems that are in India right now were there because of colonialization. Because when England left, they left in one of the worst possible ways, and they kind of screwed over all of the people there. And it's still taking, what? It's been almost 100 years now, and India's still dealing with the process of decolonization. It was a big mess. Has Jainism ever been as popular as Hinduism or Buddhism? Never as popular as Hinduism. In its early days, Jainism was about as popular as Buddhism. Buddhism took off a lot faster, and has since probably the first 2 or 3 centuries of their existence been larger than Buddhism. But for the 500s and 600s and, well, I need to go backwards, from the 500s and 400s and probably even to about the 300s, Jainism and Buddhism were about the same. When Buddhism got to China on the Silk Road in the 200s BC, it just blew up. That was a really big deal. The British screwed a lot of places up. They did. Oy. So, Nirvana. Power chords and anger. Upon the completion of you shedding all of your bad karma, you reach Nirvana. And you get to ascend to the highest realm of existence. This is another part of the multiverse theory for those around. The highest realm of existence is called Siddhasiya. And it actually has an image that represents it. And it was the top of this pillar that KP pointed out. It looks like this. Whee! Look at all these cool cats sitting around and meditating. So if you see this image, this is the image that is supposed to represent Siddhasiya. And when you get there, you basically live in absolute perfect peace and harmony forever. You have reached that level of omniscient knowledge. These don't look like cats. Are you suggesting that that heaven should be full of cats? With their headphones on? They're listening to the cool jams. You were lied to. Sorry, Arcadian. Sounds boring. Yeah, just like sit around and think and be at peace with everybody and understand the universe and never lack for anything. Listening to Nirvana. Listening to mood music, yeah. Just the chill vibes of Sea to Sia pumping in through your neat little Princess Leia headphones. And then the Admiral Akbar eyes. This is not a trap. Um, so you get to see the Sia. You get that good old fashioned Kivla Jnana, that omniscient knowledge. You get to hang out with the Tatankers. Everybody's chill and peaceful, and everybody is in perfect harmony with each other. There's no pain. There's no suffering. There's no hunger. There's no lack for anything. Sounds like a pretty cool version of the afterlife to me, but I don't get to decide. I'm not telling you what to believe. So again, this is like the ultimate level. We talked a lot about the God stuff, but let me hit that one more time about the gods. So again, there's not really a creator God. There's not really any sort of being that's pulling the strings of the universe. There are other beings that exist out there, right? Just like you can get born in one of your levels of reincarnation as a demon, you can get born back as some ascended being, and you can spend time being like an angel or something. But these gods are not really going to save you. And this is where, like, I think it was Captain Reedy that mentioned Hindu gods? This is where the Hindu gods and the Buddhist bodhisattvas that Kelly referenced earlier do have some overlap with Jainism, because they would say, oh yeah, look, there are these things out there, and they're like gods, but they're not really like going to save you. They're not going to fix everything. And they think that they are stuck in the same cycle of samsara as everybody else is. So that doesn't really let them be full out gods. If they're just stuck in reincarnation like everybody else was, that's not really the same as being some eternal being with power or omniscience or anything like that. I was born as Shane McInnes once, had a dog. It was nice. Dude, if you came back as me, you had bad karma in the last life. You got lots of particles on you, my friend. So there is no creator. Gods, sure, they're out there, but they're not super powerful. They're not anything that is going to create some sort of miraculous salvation event in your life. They're really just people that are stuck in the same level of reincarnation as everything else, right? So you got your reincarnation as a plant, you got your reincarnation as a bug, you got your reincarnation as a GoPro camera on my dog, and then you got your reincarnation as some ascended being floating around in the upper stratosphere. Wait, you thought the 24 guys escaped the cycle? They did, right. So the Tirhankas, not the Tirhankas. Gosh, now I'm saying the funky words wrong. The Tirthankar get out, and they are not gods. So what I'm getting at here is that the Jains believe that there are other levels of existence between human and Siddha Siya. Siddha Siya is like the uppermost end goal for everything. But below that, like between that and humans, there are a wide variety of potential things to come back as. So you can come back as some god in some other religion. But you're still just stuck in the same cycle. The only way to get out of the cycle is to hit that level of omniscience and push over into where the Tatankars are. You're coming back as a bowl of petunias. Yeah, so the 24 guys escape the cycle. They tell other people how to escape the cycle, but there are other things stuck in the cycle too. Oh no, not again. Right, exactly. So the Tatankars are the people that show us how to get out of the cycle. And they broke the cycle, and they're up in Siddha Siya waiting to hang out. So when it comes to worship, the Tirthankars are going to be objects of worship. They do have lots of rituals in Jainism. There is sacrifice. There are ritual bathings and water ceremonies and stuff like that. So, I mean, they have their kind of day-to-day operational thing. You go to the temple, you do your stuff, just like a lot of other religions. But the key here is that what you're worshiping is a being that used to be a human that got out of the cycle, not a god that's still stuck in the cycle. Does that make sense? What do they sacrifice if they're nonviolent? Usually food. It's not like they'll do like a sacrifice. They're not going to kill an animal, but they will collect things like fruit, depending on how strict they are. Some people can't collect fruit because fruit is designed to create a new life, and if you kill the seeds, is that killing life? That's a good question. But you can leave drink offerings or food offerings as a form of sacrifice. But they're not gonna kill a cow or a dove, or there's no blood. Like, it's not a ritual kind of sacrifice. It's more like leaving things as a sign of respect. That's a good question, though. I am getting close to time, and I've still got lots of stuff to do. Goodness. Let me kind of just... honestly, the scriptural stuff that I have prepared here is kind of dense. So let me hit the high points, and we'll make up some time here. There are Jain scriptures. I'll just kind of mush a little bit. Doing two-part episodes are tough. So there are Jain scriptures. And according to the Jains, Mahavira, the last of the Tirthankars, wrote down a lot of stuff. That was his original teachings. But they were lost. There was a big famine and a big drought, and a lot of people died. And because they were transmitted orally, a lot of them were lost. And one sect of the Jains say that they have reconstructed these teachings. And one sect of the Jains said you can't reconstruct the teachings because they were gone for too long. So there's a little bit of a discussion over what counts as Jain scripture and what doesn't count as Jain scripture. Some of them say we've got all of it and we've got the commentaries. And some of them say, no, we've got some good wisdom from a couple centuries after, and that's all that we can get. I won't go into the whole big spiel of that stuff because it's got lots of funky words. I will, though, show you some Jain scripture because I always like showing the scriptures themselves. I really find it fascinating to look at individual people's writing and individual people's scripture. So this is part of one of the sutras that specifically talks about astronomy in Jain religion. The language here is Sanskrit. It is what we call an illuminated manuscript. You can see the neat little pictures. These pictures describe Jain cosmology, kind of the way that they view the universe. You've got good old-fashioned Mahavira here. There's another swastika. I think this is Rishpanath, the first of the Tirthankars. But this is a picture of their scripture. Now, again, the very, very strict Jains would say that's not really the scripture because you reworked that from finger quote memory. And the other ones would be like, yeah, but that's okay because they were passed down orally anyway, so this is still the scripture. And there's a lot of argument between these two sects about which one is scripture and which one isn't. And that gets pretty spicy here. So there's that. Okay, made some time up. Let's talk about the sects. And I didn't say sex there, I said sects. And then we will look at some symbols, and then we'll be out. All right, there are two main branches of Jainism. But I have this angry lesbian hat, so let's talk about sex, baby. Let's talk about... prepare the angry lesbian hat. The first of the sects is Digambara. And so original souls lost 500 BC and then reconstructed scriptures 1500 BC. So the original scriptures were lost a couple centuries after Mahavira, in around the 900s AD. And then about 150 years later, they were kind of reconstructed in the 1100s. So if you want to know more about that stuff, I would really encourage you to give them a quick Google. You can just Google Jain scripture, and you can get pretty deep in the discussion. There's lots of arguing. So Digambara. Digambara literally means sky clad. And there is a reason why I cannot show you a picture of a Digambara monk. Because they are clothed in the sky, aka they go buck naked. The men do not wear clothes. Women get to wear a very simple shift. But clothes are considered possessions. And you're supposed to give all that stuff up if you're a Digambara. Especially if you're a monk. If you go into like the Digambara monk group and you're a guy, you're going to go naked. And these guys are accepted as naked. I found, and this is going to sound horrible, I should very carefully construct my sentence here. In the process of looking for photos for this stream, I wanted to show a Jain monk. And in the process of searching for a Jain monk, I came across a lot of pictures of Jain monks from the Digambara sect in very, very public settings, like speaking to the Indian Parliament in their sky-clad nature. So I said that very carefully, because I could have said that in a way that would end up getting clipped and then played back ad infinitum. But it's very common. Any mummies? They're not really big on the mummification thing. They end up kind of just dying and going away. Not any of the, like, now are you talking about that group of Buddhists that sort of like mummify themselves alive? They treat bodies as clothes? Yeah, they do. So, like, Digambara people are like, these are the really, really strict ones that will sometimes end up basically starving themselves to death because they are just so detached from possessions and stuff. If you were wondering if you're in Jainism, not that I'm aware of. I'm not saying that it never happened, but I think that particular group that like eat the plants that make them all waxy, that's Buddhist. So here's where the women stuff is going to come in, because the Digambara sect is very strict on their interpretations of who can reach nirvana. And they don't believe that women can reach nirvana. The best thing that you can hope for if you are a woman is to get enough good karma to come back as a man. Which is why they don't really let the women go around naked, because they're not really going to get to go away in this life anyway. So let them have a little bit of possession, because it's a very distinct recognition that you're not going to make it. I mean, maybe next life you can come back as a guy and make it, but not as a woman. So that's that's the pretty strict anti-woman stuff. They are by far the smaller of the two groups. Of the 6 million or so Jains that are on the earth right now, Digambras are probably maybe 15%, maybe 20%. Most of the Jains, I wonder how they feel about transgender men. They would be right out about that. They would consider that, well, I shouldn't speak for them. Hypothetically guessing based on my understanding, they would say that the person was born into the body that they were given for that incarnation cycle, and by changing it, they had shown themselves to be too attached to that body. That's what I would guess. I can't say that for certain, but I would guess they would be pretty against that. No wonder that group is so small. These old beliefs tend to associate sex with gender, so right. That's fine. He's a Snickers bar. You can't go to Cilicia anyway. You enjoy that Snickers. But don't enjoy it so much. Yeah, that's my assumption. I should have probably put on the opinion hat for that. I apologize. I will retroactively put on the opinion hat and work that in back. That opinion about how Digambara sect would interpret transgenderism was pure opinion, and was not based on any actual knowledge of how anybody currently in that sect would have viewed that. So there's the opinion hat for you. So what about the other group? The Shvetambara. This is a different group. Shvetambara means white clad, or clad in white. And I can show you a photo of those without breaking Twitch TOS. They are dressed like so. They will also have both men and women in their priesthood. You can be a Digambara female priest, but you're never really going to be like a good person. You're never going to be considered an equal. Here you can see the ceremonial white face covering. This, no joke, is so that bugs don't accidentally fly in your mouth, because they would consider that bad karma. Again, karma doesn't really take into account your intention. It's only the action. Like, did you do it? Was it bad? There we go. So that was Shvetambara priest. Let's talk a little about, okay, I should note, we're about to talk about swastikas. Not Nazis. All right, so there are two pretty common symbols other than the Cilicia symbol that I showed you, where like the kind of crescent moon with the people sitting around with the Princess Leia here. One of them is the swastika. It's a very important symbol for Jainism. It is central to Jainism, and it actually needs to be broken down kind of piece by piece. So let me break this symbol down for you. All right. What we're looking at here is a couple of things. Number one, we have on top here the Cilicia symbol. And I'm trying to do something here, and my computer is just not liking me. Good gracious. Here we go. Okay, so again, this is the Cilicia, the symbol of the ultimate goal after you reach nirvana. Here we have the 3 jewels. These are the beliefs that we just talked about, where you have to have the right view, the right knowledge, and the right conduct. This is where the 5 vows are. These little dots also represent stuff, and they represent the 4 different realms of life. So this is kind of more multiverse theory. You have the realm of heaven, which is where ascended beings like the gods, but not the Tirthankas. The Tirthankas are up here. But things like Hindu gods and really cool, powerful things, but not omniscient things. Just one way that you might get brought back to life. You have heaven, you have human, you have animal, and you have hell. And you can come back in any of these four realms. And they are based within the symbol of the swastika here, which is a symbol of balance, and it's also a symbol of perpetuity, kind of like the cycle of samsara here. One thing that is important to note, usually when you see a Jain swastika, it is on this sort of flat side on the bottom, and usually when you see a Nazi swastika, it's tilted about 45 degrees, so this point is at the bottom. Just as a bit of a hint. This is not a Nazi swastika. This is a very deeply religious symbol that has been held sacred by the Jain people for about 2,200 years before there was ever even the thought of being a Nazi. This is why Jainism is better. Don't start a cult. I don't need a cult. One more image. This guy right here. You can see this symbol quite a bit. This is called, sometimes you see this referred to as the ahimsa hand, but the actual larger concept here is a couple of fold. Number one, you have the hand up in a gesture of palm out. This is kind of a sign of peace because, again, ahimsa is very much the concept of nonviolence. But the symbol here on the palm is what's called the Dharma chakra. And this particular symbol represents the belief set of Jainism and the recognition that you can change and that you should be devoted to changing your lifestyle towards the ahimsa, towards nonviolence. So I hold up... Oop, sorry about that. So I hold up my empty hand to show you that I am not here to hurt you. And on my palm I have the Dharma chakra, which shows that I am devoted to changing myself towards the better, to making the world a better place, and following the teachings and the tenets of Jainism. You can't mistake the adventure hat. Oh, my friends. Okay, so that's Jainism in a nutshell, in a very simplified form. As you can tell, there are a lot of layers in this religion. There's a lot that I didn't touch on too deeply at all. It's a very fascinating religion. I really enjoy talking about it, and I don't think a lot of people know very much about it. When I was first coming up with the concept of doing this, I made a reference in another stream to Jainism, and some people are like, what is Jainism? And that... I mean, I don't think that everybody should have some sort of inherent knowledge of every single religious belief on earth. And I recognize that even in the scheme of, if we're just looking at a pure head count, Jainism isn't in the top 5 biggest religions on earth. But I like the idea of talking about how other people view the world. And I think that even if we don't adhere to these beliefs, again, because I'm not here to try to convert you to this, I think it's interesting to see how other people view things. Because when we try to understand the world from somebody else's perspective, it changes our perspective sometimes. And I think that I think that one of the things that's really lacking in the world today is an empathy and an interest in how other people actually live. And I think that we can sort of work on that in Adventures in History, because I think this stuff is super fascinating. And you don't have to go, convert to Jainism tomorrow, but you can recognize that this is how millions of people view the world. And maybe that helps you a little bit. I don't know. Maybe it gave you an idea of how to think about something. Maybe you're going to convert to being a nudist. I don't know. It's fascinating to learn new things. I think so too. Especially as someone familiarized at a personal level with similar philosophy. Yeah, empathy is a big deal. You shall dress in clouds. Just don't bring it to Twitch, because they get really sensitive about things like nipples and peepees. Very interesting. Well, thanks, ELO Lover, and welcome. Okie dokie. So that's all for me, but that doesn't mean that we necessarily have to be done. Remember that below your chat window, you have all sorts of options to redeem adventure points because, I like weird stuff, and I'm perfectly capable of doing lots of weird things and talking about weird things. So I'm going to look around to see who we might raid. Da, 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 da. Who we got on? 3 jewels. Rank 3 things. The 3 jewels. That's a tough one. Oh man, and I feel like I might be insulting to the Jains because in the Jain hierarchy they are numbered 1, 2, 3. So I feel like, just to be honest to the Jains, I should rank them 1, 2, 3. If I tried to rank them by my opinion of how much I find them interesting, I would put the third one first. So the 5 vowels, I would put probably number 1. I find those tenets to be very interesting. I like the teachings that they have in there. I would probably put the first one, right view and the knowledge of the soul, as second. I think that their concept of soul is very interesting, and I would probably put right knowledge third, mostly because that is, to me, the hardest one to get into. I've had a lot of work trying to kind of dig into those individual teachings. I feel like I need somebody to help me get into those. I've had very little luck feeling like I'm comfortable understanding that. That doesn't mean I like them the least. That just means that I feel like I probably understand them the least. So I would say 3, 1, 2. So right understanding, correct understanding, correct view, and then correct knowledge. So, hey, Magnificent, how's it going? All right. Anybody else want to spend some points, bring up some questions, make some comments? Questions and comments are always welcome. You can always derail me. You can throw bad pop cultural references in there. You can talk about, make bad puns. Bad puns are great. I love bad puns. Otherwise, I think we're going to go do a raid. A raid! Anybody ever been to that region on the map? Man, I have not. The closest that I have been to this region is probably right about here. I've been to I've been to Jordan. I've been right here. But that's about as close as I've been to India. I would love to go to India. I've got some contacts in India. The college that I used to work at has a sister college in a place called Serampore in India. I've met several of the professors that teach at that Serampore college. They've invited me over, but I don't know if that was them being hospitable and polite or if they actually meant, hey, you should come over. Everyone in the region. Do you know the political status of Jains today in India? They're treated fairly well, and they're definitely treated better than Muslims in India. But we do have to remember that India right now is being led by a very nationalistic, very Muslim group. The political party that's in charge of India is very pro their version of Hinduism nationalism. So I don't think that the Jains are under a lot of persecution or anything like that. I would bet, though, that there are a lot of people that would rather the Jains just kind of not be there. But again, that's kind of me guessing. I don't think that there's any targeted laws that are coming out. Like most of the really targeted laws that are coming out of India right now, and the government of India are targeting Muslim people in India. The big beef right now is between Narendra Modi and his National Populist Party and the Muslim people that still live inside of India that didn't get run out in the genocides and massacres of the 1970s. So there's that. That's a good question, though. I would love to go to India, though. It would be fascinating. I'd love to go to Pakistan. There's so much cool stuff there. I would basically really like to go anyway. You're Hindu from South India. Cool. You probably know a better answer to that than I do then. So, there's that. Okie dokie. Other questions? Alrighty. Well, I think we are going to go do a raid. Friend of the stream, Crush Builds, is streaming, and he streams so rarely that this is literally the first time he has ever been online while I am streaming. So we are going to go raid Crush Builds. He is a great streamer. He does a lot of art stuff. Most of the people that I follow, that I, kind of piddle around online about, do art stuff. But we're going to go raid him. Our battle cry, as always, is adventure. And if you've got them, throw the adventure hats in. I will see everybody next week. Next stream is on Tuesday night next week, 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. We're going to be talking about the mound building cultures of North America. One of my favorite topics. I'm going to be wearing the adventure hat a lot next Tuesday. And then next Thursday, we're going to talk about some Chinese history. We're going to get back over into the Zhou dynasty and have a big civil war and end up with an emperor in China. So we'll end up next Thursday talking about Qin Shi Huang, or Shi Huangdi, however you want to call him, the first emperor of ancient China. All right, so thanks everybody. I really appreciate it. Hope everybody is having a good day. Continue to have a good day. Have a great weekend. I'm going to throw up the outro screen. I'm going to hit this raid button, and I will see you all next time. Have a good one.